going on, everyone? It's Dave Camp with Grand Rapids Rock Alternative 97.9 GRD and WGRD.com. Once again, I'm at the intersection in downtown Grand Rapids where tonight the Devil Wears Prada and As I Lay Dying will kill this place, not literally, figuratively. They're also touring with For Today and The Chariot. I have Mike with me right now. Thank you for doing this.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
So how's you guys, you just kicked off this tour like late February, right?
Yeah.
How's it been so far?
It's been awesome. It's been flying. We're starting to wrap it up. I'm really excited. I think everything has been more than satisfactory, and we're kind of just finishing things up on Dead Throne, the last record, and concluding things, I guess, and we're making our way into the studio soon, and I think we couldn't have really asked for much better results.
Now, I read that you plan on, well, maybe not plan, but have hoped to release the 5th album and maybe this fall. Is that true? Or?
Yeah, that's what we're shooting for. God willing, we go down to Atlanta and start recording like towards the end of next month, about a month from now-ish, I think. And and then after summer, late summer, early fall, I think. So we'll see.
Why Atlanta?
We're
Mastodon?
Maybe.
Yeah.
We're working with Mr. Matt Goldman, and his studio's in Atlanta.
Okay.
So working with all his gear and whatnot should be cool.
Now, do you have all the songs written and you're just waiting to put everything?
Yeah, we have like 12 or 13 musically pretty much done and ready for like pre-production, and then I have 10 songs done vocally. So we're pretty much done. Gotcha. We're about there.
Now, obviously, being a metal band, it's an intense genre. But do you ever worry about kind of maybe overproducing records?
I mean, there's concentration in it. I know that we've always put a lot of effort into the production of things, particularly having a keyboardist and whatnot. We really work to utilize every component that we have, as far two vocalists and whatnot, or Jeremy singing and such. So I mean, we've definitely had times before where we'll have a part and it will, by the time it's done, it's like, whoa, it's like 3 synths, like 2 leads, and then the rhythm, and then and 2 vocals and everything. So we've had that before. I mean, I don't know. I think that production is definitely a contributing factor to our band. So I don't know. It's just kind of working that relationship with those sorts of elements.
Excuse me. Now this will be your 5th album, full-length album. After a while, is it harder to get creative after putting 4 albums in, working on the 5th, and is it hard to find kind of like the inspiration to write something that's just as good, if not better, from your past albums?
Yeah, I mean, like it's not really like hitting a wall to where you're like, what do we do now? I think we'll always have stuff to write, and I know I always have like things to say. I think really as I never expected to when we started, I didn't even know like, wow, write a whole record, like how would you do that? And
right.
Now we're on like our 5th, so it's like, oh gosh. But I mean, I don't know. There's always still more to say, and I think the biggest issue now is basically like, for me at least, like doing vocals and being like, oh, I already did something that was kind of similar to this and whatnot, which just means that it's more of a challenge and it's more difficult. But I think if it weren't that way, then we would be doing something wrong.
Right.
So I don't know. Yeah, I mean, obviously there's a very concentrated focus on not doing the same thing over and over, but we're a band that also likes to really keep it in our realm and not really go too far outside the box, or really like kind of throw fans for too much of a loop, but really just try to see things in more of like a kind of progressive, I don't know, scenario or perspective on things.
Do you plan on keeping in the direction of Dead Throne? Because it was a little heavier compared to previous albums, so are you still within that path?
Definitely. I think with Dead Throne, the biggest feedback we've received is a lot like, we really like Zombie EP, and a lot of people somehow saw Zombie EP as heavier than Dead Throne, which I couldn't disagree with more, because I think Dead Throne is definitely heavier, but I think that Chris, who is like our kind of like skeletal dude, and he writes the riffs and kind of structures the songs and whatnot, I think that that's been in the back of his mind, and I think that while now it's it's hard for me to really know what we're doing because obviously I'm so subjected in it. I think that there is a little bit of a zombie influence in there, and that when the part is just meant to be like kind of like a brutish heavy, it's not super intelligent. It's just like, kind of like in your face type material, which I think is what is a sort of fundamental behind the zombie EP. So there's that, but I think that in general it's definitely a lot based off of Dead Throne, and especially in like the more jammy stuff, because Dead Throne was the first time we released like the instrumental and the song Chicago and whatnot, more of like a post-hardcore influence. We definitely wanted to keep working in that realm too.
Now, Chris, he's not on this tour right now because he's taking care of a baby. Has that been weird? Is this the first time that one of the core members hasn't been on tour?
No. When we put out Dead Throne, the first tour we did was Dead Throne Australia, and that was when James was in the band. And James was on his honeymoon.
That was your former keyboardist.
Right, and that John played on that tour with us, and then we parted ways with James, and now John just plays with us. So that happened. We love James or whatever, but obviously it wasn't working out, which is why we parted. Now it's cool. Sam is playing with us, who plays in 4 today. And really the biggest thing is that we just miss Chris and miss having him around, because he's really funny, strange personality. So that's the biggest thing, just wanting to have Chris around.
Maybe he'll push a concept now, since he's a father, being like this death metal kids album. That could be for the 5th full length. I know. It's no secret that the music industry in general has its problems, has been for over a decade now, and especially with rock. But it seems like metal. I mean, this show sold out. I'm assuming the rest of the tour has been successful. It seems like metal has it's a closer knit community. Do you think that's fair to say about the metal genre?
Definitely. I think there's a very important sort of companionship that extends through metal, as far as just like that camaraderie. I think that is entirely transparent. I think that anyone, even if you hate metal, you can't help but see what happens when you go to something like a Slayer show, or like Mayhem, what we did over the summer, that tour and whatnot. I think that helps. I don't know if, as far as the industry, it is what it is. We don't really worry about that. We worry about writing songs we want to write and touring the way we want to tour. But I think there is definitely, again, a very strong sense of camaraderie in metal. And I think that this is sort of offhanded about your question, but I think that it's that certain cult following, and that's like something that we've really tried to establish in the Devil Wears Prada, as far as like people really having something to relate to and not being something so terribly contemporary, as far as like now you just like some other band and you don't like Prada anymore. Right. We've always wanted, like, it's not meant to be something that just comes in and out. It's not meant to be a trend. I
don't really think the interest in your band has faded at all, especially here, because I remember you were at the Orbit Room 2 or 3 years ago, and that, I don't know if it sold out, but it's pretty damn near close, and then obviously interest is still there. So what is it about your fans that, say, compared to other fans who said, maybe I'll get the next record, but I won't, whereas your fans are pretty rabid for that next piece of material from The Devil Wears Prada?
I think that this is going to sound terribly conceited, and I don't mean it to sound that way at all, but the way we go about making choices with our band is very purely based on sincerity. And we never want to do things that can become bored. Like, we don't want to tour this, we used to tour the States 4 times a year or whatever, and we would love to do that, but at the same time it's going to become oversaturated. We want to spend time elsewhere, and we don't want to just keep putting out full length. So we did the Zombie EP, and we did the live record and things like that. So in one hand, on one side, it's like, yes, we want to try to make it to where fans have something cool on like that side of things, but more importantly, we don't write, this is the conceited part, we don't write songs that mean nothing. Songs are very important to us, and it's what we live and die by. And
you don't write filler.
Exactly. It's not a bunch of party songs, It's not written about like something that
you're not doing Big Timers covers all the time.
Oh yeah, well, never again. But yeah, I mean, we've done records that have been very, very solely intended just to uplift, you know, and then we'll do something like Dead Throne and it's something entirely different. And I think that we just want that connection there to where it founds something in people's lives, you know, because that's how we are. We have that record from As Lay Dying, a bunch of records from As Lay Dying, because we love that band. And, you know, like The Bled and Under Oath and all the bands that we grew up listening to. And that's what we want to do. That's what we see as, you know, that is good content. That is what music is meant to be. So that's kind of like our guidelines and our fundamentals as to the way we approach things. And I think that it creates something very special for fans. And that's why, you know, people from like Scotland flew in for the show. And, you know, we have people that, fans that will see them like, hey, how have you been? And they're like, this is 13th time seeing you this year. And that's how you do it. Mm-hmm. And it's about creating that connection, I think.
It's interesting to hear just talking to different artists. And one example is Dallas Green from Sydney Color and formerly of Alexis on Fire. He has the same mentality of not touring as much to create that demand, to make that demand even bigger. But then there are other artists I've talked to who said, you always have to be on the road. You always have to have your brand out there. That's really the only way to make money and be successful. It's like, is that a constant struggle?
I wouldn't call it a constant struggle, but I would say it's something that requires thought and attention. I mean, the thing about if you're touring all the time is I would, if choosing between the two, I would agree with Dallas Green more so. I think that you should be on tour all the time, but you should be making people, you got to keep them guessing. That's what I say. And I think you need to do things to mix it up so fans get a little bit of a different show, always a wholehearted show. And I think that it's also important to, I just forgot what I was about to say. This happens all the time. How do I say this? You need to, when you're not touring, you need to have a certain presence. And for me, I think almost a sort of mystery is good. And I could see that in like what City and Color does or whatnot. Mm-hmm. I think that's cool, and I think that's something that I really appreciate in bands, especially as I've gotten older and I've become more of an adult. I just think it's a lot of those little things that all tie together, and I don't think it's really something that everyone sees. I think it's something sort of subconscious, and I don't know, I could rant about it forever. It wouldn't be interesting.
Now, just speaking of live shows, you said in the past how you aren't too thrilled when fans kind of get overexcited, want to be all in your face. Has your opinion kind of softened with that view? I mean, obviously with, say, the Randy Blythe situation, things can go bad. Is that something that's on your mind constantly for every show?
I mean, in an enthusiastic audience, there's nothing better. I mean, this show is going to be incredible. I mean, Michigan's always been awesome for us. The Intersection's always been awesome for us, and now good sold-out show. But, I mean, like, it's never been, like, the fans are too wild or something. I mean, like, however you want to come out and express yourself at a show is your decision. I think that there are guidelines to follow, particularly in not being violent and not wanting to hurt other people, which is something that I know I'm in situations like the Randy Blythe thing and other things, and just seeing certain shows where people are out there to solely hurt other people. Like, that's starting to kind of weigh on me more and more.
Yeah, it sucks when a couple douchebags ruin it for everyone
else.
Yeah,
exactly. And I think that's, for me, that kind of weighs on me more than anything as far as, like, fans with me. The biggest thing that I think that I might have been outspoken about here and there is just I don't like people thinking that we're like the heroes or whatever, that we're
which
super
was
special.
what Dead Throne
right, and that's
on
exactly that was a very core principle of the album. But as far as coming out to a show, like, you know, lose yourself, dude. Like, this is your time to be free. This is, you know, this, like, you paid for the ticket. We're gonna give you every penny we can as far as for why we're here. But yeah, I think in relation to your question, for me, it's just important that people take care of one another, and that's about it. I mean, no one's ever hurt me, or I've never had to shove someone off stage and kill them or whatever. not blaming Lamb of God, but just saying.
Right.
in layman's terms.
Right, Mike. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Devil Wears Prada playing with As I Lay Dying. Also, For Today in the Chariot. There are still some dates left, and hopefully we see a new album later this year if things go according to plan. Steve Kim for Grand Rapids Rock Alternative 97.9 GRD.